Darth Maul was a pretty overrated character, to be honest. What? He never said anything. He had a cool fight scene for like 5 minutes, and then he died because he stood there patiently and watched Obi-Wan slowly jump over him and chop him in half. That's seriously embarrassing, but hey, it could have been worse.
Look out!
For years, Darth Maul lived on as a fan favorite, with most people saying that he should have stuck around and been a key player during the Clone Wars. But I didn't say that. I still thought he was kinda dumb. If Maul were to return, I would want him to be an actual character, you know, with dialogue. I wanted him to be a broken, disgraced warrior hell-bent on revenge against the guy who stole his Sith legacy. I wanted a ruthless, compelling Maul who had bigger ambitions than just fighting dudes. I wanted a complete monster who was also a little pitiful. And most importantly, I wanted someone other than George Lucas to write all this, because he would 100% screw it up. All of this seemed like a pointless fantasy that would never come true. Oh wait, it did. Darth Maul in the Clone Wars is everything I wanted and more. I won't spoil anything because I want you guys to watch it on Netflix right now. Or once the video is over, I don't care which. But yeah, Maul is not only compelling as corn, but he does so many evil things during his pursuit for revenge that he establishes himself as Obi-Wan's bona fide nemesis. Is that how you pronounce bona fide? I don't care. How often can we definitively call someone a nemesis to someone else in the Star Wars universe? In a galaxy where most ongoing conflicts are simply light versus dark, Jedi versus Sith, yada yada, here's a conflict so fueled by personal hatred that it's jarring. Seriously, if you haven't watched the show, shame on you. It's actually the best Star Wars content outside of the original trilogy. Anakin is the best character in this show. Fucking Anakin. Unfortunately, Maul's story ended on a cliffhanger when the show got canceled, and I was upset. I wanted more. There was this wild story arc where Maul, Dooku, Grievous, and Sidious fought each other and switched allegiances a ton, but when the show was canceled, it was instead adapted into a comic. Seeing Maul again on screen seemed pretty unlikely. Until Rebels, that is. Yep, Maul was still kicking even a few years before A New Hope, which is kinda ridiculous when you think about it. Anyway, it's no secret that Rebels wasn't that good overall, and while Maul was still an interesting antagonist, the sheer excitement that his presence brought to the Clone Wars wasn't really there anymore, and his motivations and actions weren't nearly as compelling. It was clear that the character's role in the overall Star Wars story had run its course, and it was time for the showrunners who so expertly brought him back to put him to rest yet again. They did so in the Season 3 episode Twin Suns, where Maul and Obi-Wan had their final confrontation. Their duel was brief, more akin to a Western shootout than a lightsaber clash. After being fatally wounded, Maul, for a brief moment, let go of his hatred and expressed his desire for the Chosen One to destroy the Sith, a twisted ideology that was truly to blame for the destruction of his life. It's a beautiful moment and an ending I never expected a character like Maul to have. To see such a heinous villain being cradled in the arms of the man he tormented for years, it's about as powerful as Star Wars gets. This could have easily been the last time we saw Maul on screen. His unique journey in the Star Wars saga had come to a close. Oh wait, I forgot, this is Disney we're talking about. And Disney is desperate. Desperate to keep Star Wars fans happy by shoving in as much fan service as humanly possible into these movies.
ATSTs!
3 of the 4 movies they've made are filled to the brim with fan service, and the one that isn't is filled with green alien titty milk, so please hit me with this as hard as you can. So yeah, in case you're part of the 90% of people on planet Earth who didn't see Solo, spoilers! The evil criminal empire Crimson Dawn that Han and his friends worked for was run by Darth Maul the whole time. Yippee! Okay, so now the tier list looks like this. Maul's surprise appearance in this movie isn't exciting. It's confusing to normies who thought he died in Phantom Menace, and to someone like me who's seen Clone Wars and Rebels, it is desperate. Maul being in charge of a crime syndicate at this point in the timeline makes sense to me, but it doesn't excite me because I already know how his story goes. He's gonna lose his crime syndicate and get stranded on the Sith Temple planet, then he'll meet Obi-Wan and die. Who cares what he was doing 10 years before that? This entire appearance is a setup with no potential for an interesting payoff. Han's girlfriend Kira works for Maul. Great! What is this a setup for? Seeing Maul in another Solo movie? Are Maul and Han gonna meet? How is that gonna work? Han doesn't even believe in the Force in A New Hope, and you want him to meet a Sith Lord? Maybe it's a setup for an Obi-Wan movie, but like, is Kira gonna be there? Who cares about Kira? Jenny Nicholson brought this point up somewhere in her 15-minute solo review, and I don't have the patience to find the specific clip, but she basically mentioned how Kira is only interesting in terms of her relation to Han, because you guys forgot to make her interesting in her own right. Anyway, Han can't be in an Obi-Wan movie because he doesn't meet Obi-Wan until A New Hope. Without Han, Kira isn't interesting. Why would I want to see her in a movie about Obi-Wan and Maul? Also, why do we need another confrontation between these two characters? We've had a lot of those, and we've already seen their final confrontation, so what would another fight between these two add? What is the plan to follow up this appearance? Well, since Disney didn't have a plan going into the main trilogy, I kinda doubt they have a plan here. More than ever, this just reeks of Disney's attempt to make Star Wars the new Marvel. A vast universe where iconic characters can cross over and interact. And that's idiotic. Star Wars isn't built to sustain a massive shared universe because its iconic characters are stale and tired, and Disney is incapable of creating compelling new characters. Using a character like Maul, who clearly ran his course and should have stayed buried after Rebels, is embarrassing and kind of disrespectful to his unique legacy. Disney dug up his corpse because they ran out of corpses to dig up from the original trilogy. He's just a cynical prop to set up a cynical sequel to a cynically conceived movie. And here's the kicker. If Rebels didn't exist, or if Maul wasn't in it, this appearance would have blown my mind. If Maul's story ended on a cliffhanger in Clone Wars, only to suddenly resurface in live-action films and have his story play out there, that would have been insane. But that requires Disney to actually have a plan. If they had a plan, they wouldn't have let Filoni and his team use Maul extensively, let alone kill him off. But they did. So why should I be excited about a cynical, pathetic, last-minute, half-assed, shoehorned cliffhanger sequel hook featuring an overused and played-out character with the death scene already shown to us? You know, I just noticed that I haven't actually talked about the scene itself. Kira is basically briefing Maul on the mess she and Han made, and Maul tells her to come to Dathomir to complete her training or something. It's simple dialogue, and yet Maul feels the need to stand up, show off his robotic legs, grab his lightsaber with the Force, and turn it on. Why would he ever need to do this outside of fan service? Ron Howard even said they filmed a version without the lightsaber, but they decided it wasn't fan servicey enough, Darth Maul-y enough. And yeah, he looks like garbage.
I call it bold and bright. More like belongs in the garbage.
I'm glad Sam Witwer and Ray Park both got to portray him. More so Sam Witwer, since he's pretty much the definitive Maul. But yikes, his voice does not match this crusty old fuck.
You and I will be working much more closely from now on.
Turning the lightsaber.
It's such an awkward scene trying so desperately to leave an impact, but it doesn't. It's white noise, just like every other fan servicey line and moment in this entire movie. Disney has effectively killed my interest in ever seeing this character again because he's overused as fuck and he has nothing new to offer Star Wars. I understand that a lot of people were impressed by this appearance and they thought it was really neat, but I'm sorry, I just don't see it that way. Now Clone Wars is coming back and I'm super excited, but at the same time, I keep hearing that the focus will be entirely on the siege of Mandalore, which means a lot more Maul, and honestly, I'm just sick of him. I don't care about seeing yet another out-of-order puzzle piece in his life. We went from his death to 10 years earlier as a crime lord to another 10 years earlier at the end of the Clone Wars. How can anyone be invested in or excited to see this character anymore? He went from the single greatest selling point of the Clone Wars TV show to a tired old hack who, despite being dead, refuses to die. His continued presence in Disney Star Wars is emblematic of the biggest problem with the new franchise as a whole. They have no real plan, but they think as long as they include fan service, it's okay. But it isn't, and people are starting to take notice. And besides, all this continued focus on Maul is taking away from the real character who deserves all this focus. The bug guy from Jabba's palace. Aw man, this guy is the best musician of all time. Just listen to those majestic, glorious voice pipes. Truly a spectacle to behold.